A 24-hour fast can be a scary idea, but the good news is you don't have to do it alone. Come with me. We're going to fast for the next 24 hours. And at each point in the fast, I'll talk you through what you might be feeling and why, and what stage your body is in the 24-hour fast cycle. So it's about noon. I've decided to do a noon to noon 24-hour protocol. So I'm headed to Whole Foods to get all the ingredients for a terrific last meal. At Whole Foods, I'm headed straight for the butcher counter. I think it's smart to do a high protein, low carb meal. Because one of the goals of my fast is to get into fat burn as soon as possible. So it just doesn't make sense to load up on a whole bag of croissants or some of their terrific kind of yummy sweets here. So I'm going to go for a teriyaki marinated kebab, which has got onions and peppers in it, as well as like really good source of protein, obviously the flank steak. I'm going to go home, cook up a bed of cauliflower rice, put it in the pan, super hot, stir fry it with olive oil, just a little bit, spritz of olive oil, and the rice will crunch up really nice. Put the steak and vegetables on it, and hey, I think it's a great last meal. It's huge for starters. And the carb count, even with the teriyaki marinade, is only about 15 grams. Now, onto a little tool that has really helped me with my weight loss efforts. About 5 years ago, I took off somewhere between 40 and 50 pounds, and I've kept it off ever since 2020. Part of the reason is this Lumin Tracker. It's a metabolic tracker. It's got a lot of functions. You basically get the device, download the app, and Lumin works a lot like YouTube. At the beginning, you blow all the time. You are trying to give the device as much information as you can, but you definitely want to blow in the morning to show where you are in carb burn versus fat burn. Now, the goal of Lumin is not to stay in fat burn all the time. A lot of people make that mistake. The goal of using a Lumin is to have metabolic flexibility, which is the ability to switch back and forth between carb burn and fat burn, depending upon the circumstances. Right after you eat, and boy, have I just eaten, I should be in carb burn. That's normal. My body has got a lot of blood sugar in it now. It's digesting the food I ate about an hour ago. There should be plenty of blood sugar in my body, indicating I'm presently burning the carbs I just ate. That's what you want. But the Lumin will also tell me when I've finished burning the carbs I just ate. It will show me with a number scale, which I'll demonstrate, when I'm dropping out of carb burn and beginning to move closer to fat burn. So let's go ahead and take the first measurement. You basically inhale, hold it for 10 seconds, and blow out. And here's my score. As anticipated, I'm burning the carbs I just ate. Good for me. The Lumin can give you a lot of information. It tells you when you're burning carbs. It tells you when you're burning fat. It also can tell you if you measure before and after an exercise, how effective that exercise is switching you into fat burn. It can tell you if certain meals really raise your carbs. And it's very particular to the individual person. My cousin has one too. And one of the things we noticed early in the process when we were blowing all the time, we could take the same exercise class and it would have a different effect on me than it would her. Or we could eat the exact same meal. It would raise the carbs in one of us more than the other. So the Lumin is giving you constant feedback and information. It's especially helpful in terms of fasting, though, because there's a fasting option where you can blow every hour, every couple of hours, and you'll see your carbs slowly decrease, and you'll know the exact moment that you switched over to fat burn. That can be a really helpful thing during a long fast. The human body likes for things to be super easy, and right after a big meal, carbs will stay in your body from anywhere between 8 and 12 hours. The body likes that because it has easy access to the carbs. They're floating around in your blood sugar. It's sort of like a buffet for the body. Easy access, it just reaches out and gets fuel whenever it needs it. But at some point in the process, the carbs will begin to burn their way out and will no longer be in your blood sugar. At that point, the body still can burn carbs for 2 or 3 more hours. It just has to work a little harder to get to them. Why? Because the carbs are no longer in the form of blood sugar. They are now in the form of glycogen, which is essentially blood sugar that's been stored in the muscles. So the body has to work a little harder to get at them. At that point, you're probably going to be pretty hungry. I think of it like this. If having just eaten and the blood sugar is plentiful and it's like a buffet, then when you switch to the glycogen part of the burn, it's more like, yeah, there's still fuel there. Now you've got to go in and open the refrigerator and dig stuff out and look around and kind of put it together and warm it up and make yourself a meal. So you've still got fuel. You just have to work a little harder to get it. It's not right there in front of you. At this point, though, the body's beginning to protest a little bit. The hunger is getting stronger, and you might be getting the sense that, hey, yeah, my blood sugar's dropping. I'm tapping out of the immediate fuel. Well, I don't know. I'm out for my after dinner walk, and it's kind of weird to have an after dinner walk when you haven't had dinner. But it's been 9 hours since I've eaten. I still feel fine. I am starting to get hungry. So I can only assume that my blood sugar is starting to drop. And I am beginning to go into the zone where I'm burning partly fat and partly carbs. So I'm kind of in a transition phase. I think I better get home and go to bed relatively early tonight. That's my strategy for coping with this fast, is sleeping through the entire middle section of it. Yeah, I had a normal afternoon, felt fine. Lumin Blue, a 3, which is to be expected. I was moving from a 4 to a 3, running out of carbs. After that walk, though, I had been 8 hours without food, and my Lumin read a 2. I am getting hungry, so I think it's a good idea to, I can't take a gummy. That would actually break my fast and pull me out of fat burn. So I'm just going to take a sleeping pill, and I've saved an episode of The Gilded Age. So the goal is go to bed early and sleep through the part of the fast where I completely run out of fuel. Okay, it's the next morning, and I slept like a rock. I'm not used to sleeping pills. But I think this worked because I feel good. I am now 19 hours into my fast, and this is actually my second fast. For those of you who didn't see my previous video on fasting, I tried one based on the protocol that's usually recommended, which is evening to evening. Like you eat a 7 o'clock meal for supper, and then you don't eat again until the next night at 7 o'clock. That did not work for me. And the reason is this. When you are completely out of carbs, somewhere, depending upon your personal biology and your personal metabolism, this is probably going to happen around 15 to 17 hours. You completely run out of carbs and you move into fat burn. This is not necessarily for everybody an easy transition. Now, fasting is extremely individual, extremely particular to your personal biology. But for me, at least, when I did the evening to evening fast, that meant the next morning, when I got to about 16, 17 hours, my blood sugar was gone and I really bottomed out. I got shaky, confused. I called it my personal valley of death, which is dramatic, but it is a point where I started to bail on the fast. And I was wondering if I could do a 24-hour fast as a normal part of my protocol. It was tough enough. I dreaded the idea of doing it over and over again. But this was much easier because with this timing, lunch to lunch, I did sleep through the worst part of my fast. And here's the thing about the valley of death. If you can get through it without eating, on the other side of it, you feel fine. The last 5 or 6 hours of a 24-hour fast are much easier. I don't know if you can tell, but I feel really clear-headed and energetic. I woke up feeling fine. So I think this is the protocol that's going to work for me is noon to noon, sleep through the valley of death. And then the next morning, you've kind of gotten that second wind. That means that fat burn has kicked in. There's something else that happens at that point. Your body has made the switch. And to use the analogy that we started with, when you have just eaten and you've got plenty of blood sugar strolling through your body, it's like a buffet. When you are trying to access glycogen, getting the stored energy out of your muscles, it's like opening your refrigerator and making a meal. But when you're completely out of carbs, well, if you were a lower life form, frankly, you'd starve. But we're not a lower life form. We have the ability to switch over to stored energy, to our fat, and burn that. But the process of doing it is more arduous for the body to go in and unlock the energy that's stored in our fat. And that, to continue the analogy, is more like if you had to get up, get dressed, get in the car, go to the grocery store, buy food, go back and come back and prepare it. You're not going to starve, but you're going to have to go to some effort to get that fuel source. And that's what your body feels like when it has to go into your fat to access that fuel source. This is what the keto people love. It's ketosis. You switched into fat burn. Your body has switched to a different fuel source, which is ketones. You do feel clear-headed and energetic, or at least I do right now. So we'll see how long that lasts. And it's a great point if you can get there. Good morning, Thad. If you can get through the valley of death. Something else happens at about that period, too, when you're switching over from carbs to fat. You enter a process called autophagy, which is good medicine. Again, I talk about it in the previous video. It's actually very well researched by named clinics like the Cleveland Clinic. And the guy who first isolated this principle won the Nobel Prize for medicine. So this is for real. And when your cells realize at about 15 or 16 hours, gee, this woman's not going to feed us, we've got no energy coming in, they begin to offload anything that's no longer useful to them, which means damaged cell walls, damaged protein, cells that are starting to mutate, cells that are underfunctioning, they eliminate them. They cull them out. Your body does a basic self-induced detox. And that is fantastic for your health. And it's the second benefit of fasting. Fasting gets a lot of attention because it puts you into fat burn, and we all like fat burn. I'm not knocking that. But probably the deeper benefit of a 24-hour fast is that if you do it right, you spend 5 or 6 hours in autophagy, which is cell repair. And the benefits for your health are incredible. Depending on what source you listen to, it's a chance to reboot the cells, to get the old stuff out, to get the new stuff up and operative. But the fact that it culls out mutant cells, some people think that even makes it less likely that those mutated cells will turn cancerous. So there can be tremendous benefits from periodically putting your body in autophagy. So I don't know. I've got about 5 hours to go, but I think I'm going to make it. Right now I'm feeling pretty good. Oh, and one other thing. You can have coffee. That's the only thing you can have besides water in a fast, as long as it's black coffee. And I was delighted to have a cup a minute ago. I also blew a one, which is very unusual for me. On my Lumin, I hardly ever blow a one. That means you're in almost complete fat burn. Hi, I'm about halfway to Columbia, and I stopped at a rest area because suddenly I had a thought. I was wondering, am I hungry? Because I'm now coming up to more like 20 hours into the fast. And it occurred to me that I wasn't hungry. I was just not full. Which makes me wonder, if you live in a developed country, if you're a middle-class person, blessed enough to be a middle-class person in a developed country, do you even know what hunger is? Does your body recognize it anymore? I am not sure that mine does. I think when I'm not full, I interpret that as hunger, which is an interesting concept. I think we all need to be a little more comfortable with sometimes being hungry, not for weight loss, but just for the kind of psychological awareness of how incredibly fortunate we are, and that there are people that live like this all the time. So as for me, I think I'm actually 20 hours in, feeling good, not hungry, and actually just not full, which is kind of a pleasant feeling. I do have to say, though, that the bad breath thing or the weird taste in your mouth is kind of getting to me. I almost automatically reach for a breath mint, but instead I'm going to go into the bathroom and brush my teeth. That's another reason I stopped. So anyway, we'll see. I'm hoping when I get to Columbia and we start with the museum, which is going to be so much fun. It's got heroes and villains. The Disney costumes are on tour, and my granddaughters are super excited about it. We're all Disney freaks. I think that's going to be so distracting that I'll coast through to lunch with no problem at all. Yeah, so the good luck held. We had a great time at the museum. My granddaughters absolutely loved it. And then around lunch, we walked to a little cafe and I had a roast beef sandwich with beets on the side, and it was delicious. But I wasn't horribly hungry. I was hungry. I really enjoyed it. And it felt great, but it wasn't like I was starving or collapsing. I think this protocol is completely going to work for me. I am so psyched. So if you're intrigued and you're thinking about trying a 24-hour fast for yourself, here's some advice. Number one, work yourself up slowly. Don't even think about fasting for 24 hours unless you're already routinely going 12 hours at every cycle without eating. That's a pretty simple stop eating at 7 at night. Don't eat again until 7 the next morning. Until you've got that comfortably under your belt, you probably shouldn't extend to a longer fast. The second thing is choose a day when not much is going on. It's hard to predict exactly how you're going to feel at every point, so I wouldn't fast on a day that I've got like a major business report or I'm traveling or something that would make it hard to control my own mood swings. The third thing I would say is really consider the timing of your fast. The lunch to lunch protocol worked for me because it let me sleep through the valley of death. Not everyone experiences the valley of death. Some people, especially those that have families and want to eat a meal with their family at night, might choose to go with the dinner to dinner protocol. It's very individualized, but give it some thought. I personally like the lunch to lunch, but everybody's got their own stuff to deal with. Fourth tip, make your last meal something that's relatively high in protein and fat and low in carbs. It'll get you into fat burn that much earlier. So this isn't like a marathon. You don't necessarily want a pasta load before a fast. Like I did the steak and peppers. That worked for me. I would go high protein, high fat. And consider the Lumin. I've got a link to buy in the comments that it really helps me if someone buys it off of this channel. And also you get 10% off if you use the code Getting Bolder. Lumens are expensive. I realize they're not for everybody. But if you are someone who's really interested in your metabolic flexibility, or you're thinking about fasting as a regular part of your lifestyle, I think Lumens are extremely helpful because they're giving you real-time feedback about whether you're in fat or carb burn at all times, plus a lot of other metabolic insights. So consider it if this is something that really matters to you and you think you're going to do it more than once. And the last tip I would say is just don't do this too often. We're not supposed to be doing this every day. And basically, eating protocols, unusual things like fast, work better if they surprise your body, if they shock your body. Our bodies are incredibly adaptive. It's the best thing about them. But it does mean it's pretty hard to put one over on your own body. So if you want to shock it into autophagy, the fast has to be a relatively rare occurrence. I plan to do it probably once every 2 weeks. There are some people that do it once a week. A lot of people do it once a month, but it's not meant to be something that you do necessarily every other day. If you do, your body will become acclimated to it and you'll lose some of the benefits. You've got to surprise your body for it to go into the sort of self-protective mechanisms that really cause the benefits of a fast. Okay, that's it. I am feeling pretty good about this whole thing. I think I'm going to do this, like I said, twice a month, maybe 3 times a month, and use it for both autophagy and fat burn. Good luck with that. And please, in the comments, tell me what your own experience was. What was the roughest part for you? What was the easiest part for you? Why were you doing it in the first place? Like I said, this is so individual. I'd love to hear other people's stories. This is Kim with Getting Bolder. Please subscribe.